just find that? Yeah, all right. We should use that, like, up there sometime. All right, so this is the mystery box. And if you haven't seen it before, so we pull this out for fun. Like 6 weeks, maybe sometimes Christmas. We did this all during COVID because the kids were with us just to kind of keep them engaged. And adults were like, I love it. So a family takes home the box. You want me to use the mic? Oh, he's like, come on, Heidi, use the mic. So a family brings home the mystery box or brings something hidden so we can't see it and sticks it in here before church. And we take turns coming up with a message. So was it Khaled? He's not. He's upstairs. Okay. So Khaled, who's upstairs because he's little and antsy. So on family service, we still have like nursery, if you're wondering, and like for littles. So for very, very littles, because it's hard to sit through a whole service. All right. So I'm going to look in here. I'm going to see what's in here. And then I'm going to think about what it reminds me of from Scripture. And maybe, hopefully, come up with a creative lesson. Oh. Okay. All right. Ooh. Mexico, it says on here. That is one of my favorite places to visit in the world is Mexico. All right. So give me a minute. I haven't done this in a little while. Okay, I'm going to tell you. This is maybe a little bit different, but I think it's a fun story. So I was talking to my sister this week, and they just got back from a mission trip in Mexico at an orphanage. And so this is a different take than we normally do. But she said that they went to church. They went to a church service in Mexico, and the people were dancing and like, have you ever been to a service like that or seen it? They were just dancing and all out. And the people in her church were like, she said their jaws were dropped and they didn't know what to do. But the youth, she said, it's like the youth know. She's like, our youth just went on down front and started like joined in and they were dancing. And the people in her church said to her, well, they have different beliefs. And she's like, nope. No, they don't actually. Yes, they do because it's another culture. They do actually. But she goes, actually, it's kind of just the white church that just kind of stands there and like the European church. And she goes, I've been a lot of places in the world, and most places in the world cut a rug. Like you get sweaty, you worship with your whole body. And it reminds me of David. When you read the Psalms, you kind of just get this picture that it just wasn't quite as reserved as we are as Caucasians and Anglos. So I want to encourage you sometimes. Like, I know for some people here, they've told me, like, lifting their hands is a really big deal. But sometimes when you allow God, when you put away your body, like what other people care about you, you can really experience God in some freeing ways. So I just want to encourage you here. You don't have to. But there's a family that's come here for a long time that's pretty reserved, and she's like, I couldn't believe how beautiful it is to like lift your hands. So you have freedom here to get into it a little bit. And like the Psalms, make a joyful noise, worship the Lord with gladness, come into his courts with praise, like all of those. When you read them, you kind of get a picture of something a little more exuberant. So, all right. There we go. That's what I thought of. I thought of the Psalms. All righty. I think what we have.
Okay, Jamie, up.
Starting the timer, folks. I get told I talk too long sometimes, and the clock isn't working, so I don't know what time it is. I'm starting the timer. All right, start with talking to the kids. Kids. Now, usually I plan to have you up here and play a game and do something really fun. And Heidi and I were talking, and we're like, guess what? We're going to have a fifth Sunday. There's not going to be any kids here. And then guess what happened? There's kids here. And so I don't have you planned to be up here. But if you want to, you are welcome to come and be right down front where you can see really good what's going to happen. If you want to come down, you can come down. Parents, you can come down with them if you want to. You just want to be able to see. You're going to want to be able to see this cup pretty well, okay, when we get to it. So come on, kiddos. Hi, Liam. All right, and they're coming. Yeah, it's just going to be right down over here. It's going to be really fun. And if you're really, really good, at the end of the time of our talking and working through this little project, there will be every kid's favorite part of church. What's everybody's favorite part of church? Playing. Somebody else want to have another shot at it? What do you got? Listening to us sing. Luke. Okay, we'll just change. We'll get rid of the other thing and we'll just sing afterward. Does anybody else have a guess of every kid's favorite part of church? I hear this all the time. Food. Yeah. It's very generous of you to say that your favorite part's singing. Every kid's favorite part's food. Whenever we have communion, my daughter goes, "I love communion, snacks." She gets all excited about snacks, and so we will have a snack afterward. Take a deep breath. Do you smell anything? No? Well, keep smelling. Maybe you'll smell something along the way. That sounds a little odd, doesn't it? Maybe you'll smell something good. All right, so before we start this little demonstration, we're going to look at a part in the Bible where Jesus is teaching, and he's going to say these words. He's going to start with this. The kingdom of heaven is like. Can all the kids say that with me? The kingdom of heaven is like. Okay, you know what that means? He's going to say something after that word like to describe what heaven is like, right? Now, last week, I talked to all the adults, and we talked about the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of earth, the kingdom of God and the kingdom that we live in now. We talked about there, right, off in heaven someday, and what things are like right now. And we made a list. We made 2 lists. And so we want to test the adults and see what they remember. But whether you were here or not, I bet you know a little bit about what these 2 things are like, right? What the kingdom of earth, the here and now, is like, and what the kingdom of heaven is like. So we're going to start with the adults, okay? We want to see if they remember anything from last week. Now, in fairness, I had to write in my notes what I put down last week. So we'll see. We're going to compare and contrast. Let's start with the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven like? Can somebody tell me equality? What? Blessing. That's a great word. Blessing. I'm writing nicer than last week because I was given some critique later. Anyway, you couldn't read it. That's what I was told. All right, so what's the kingdom of earth like then? If kingdom of heaven is like blessing and then kingdom of earth is opposite, what might be the opposite of blessing? Curse. Terrible. It's like what witches and stuff do, right? Put a curse on you. It means bad things happen to you. All right, what's the kingdom of heaven like? Somebody else got something. Freedom, there's another good one. That was on the list. Totally free. Now, what would be the opposite of that? If the kingdom of heaven is where you get freedom, what would kingdom of earth be like? Bondage or slavery. Bondage is a weird word, right, kids? What does that even mean? It's like you're all... I know. So here's what the word means. It means you're tied up. Interesting sound. So we're going to go with slavery. And I did not write nicely. Anybody else got another idea? Kids, you can shout some stuff out too. What's the kingdom of heaven like? Justice. There is a good word. Anybody know what justice means? It means like where people get what they deserve, right? When people do bad things, they get what they deserve. And it's even more than that too. It's restoration. And what's the opposite of justice? Big ideas? Inequality. How about injustice? Yep, we could say injustice. That's not a G. I got myself confused. It's a J. Boy, that one. All right, so you get the point, right? All these bad things, slavery, injustice, curse. We could put death. How about death? That's a good one, right? Death. And over here we have life. What? What do you got? You have an uncle named Justice? So maybe he's in the kingdom of heaven. That would be, he's not, he's still here. He's still here, that's fine. All right, and over here we have peace. And we have love. Pally? Okay. Oh, cool. All right, so here's the point. So here's the kingdom of heaven, all right? All of these good things, all the things that we all want, blessing, freedom, justice, life, peace, love, hope, is all in God's kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. Then over here in the kingdom of earth, we have exactly the opposite. We have hatred, we have death, we have destruction, we have violence, we have pain, we have suffering, we have sickness, all of the things that none of us like, right? So we got to remember this. So this is from the book of Ephesians that we talked about last week, right, adults? You with me? All right, so now we're going to jump to the book of Matthew, chapter 13. And Jesus is going to say that the kingdom of heaven is like. He's going to talk about what this is like. And here is what he's going to talk about. He's going to say the kingdom of heaven is like a grandma making bread. How many of you have a grandma? How many of you ever had grandma's bread? I've never had grandma's bread. But Jesus apparently had a grandma who made bread. And he said the kingdom of heaven is like a grandma making bread. And he tells his stories to his followers to help them understand what this kingdom is like. Because we all live over here. We know what this one's like. But we don't understand this one. And so what he's going to say is that it's a little bit like yeast. And so what I want to do is mix up some yeast. Do you guys know what yeast is? Well, I'm going to show you in just a minute. So we are going to take, I need a volunteer who's helpful and able to mix things together. Liam, I'm thinking maybe this one's a little bit, let's go with, what's your name again? Kira, you want to come help me, Kira? Okay. Now, I did forget one thing. I forgot a spoon. Could you grab me a plastic spoon? All right. So, Kira, what we have right here is sugar. Do you like sugar? Yeah. How much do you like sugar? Lots. Can I trust you with this not to eat it? Yes. Okay, hold on to that. And what we have right here is this stuff called yeast. You ever seen yeast before? No? You want to smell it? Tell me what it smells like. Dirt. I think it smells like the bowl. Really, there's no smell to it, is there? And can you see in there how big they are? They're little tiny specks, and there's lots of them in there, isn't there? Yeah. But really, this is only about 2 teaspoons full. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and put it into that water, or into this bowl. Okay? It's apparently hard. It's hard to find a spoon around here, so Heidi's getting us a spoon. All right? Now, we're going to take this sugar, because you know who else likes sugar a lot? Who? Besides these guys? This stuff in here is yeast, and it really likes sugar. So let's pour this teaspoon or 2 of sugar right in there into that yeast. Okay, pour it all in there. Okay, now this says I have to have 9.5 ounces of water. This is a 10-ounce cup. I think that's right about there. So what we need to do is pour that water carefully, thank you, Heidi, into this container. Go for it. Keep going. Oop, you're spilling. Pour fast. There you go. There we go. Now you can take this spoon and stir it up a little bit. Stir, get that bottom, get the sugar in there. Okay, we can get this out of here. There you go. Now you let it go. Let it sit. Now we're just going to push this right up here. Can everybody see that? Okay. It's nasty looking. Now smell it. Smell something?
Yeah.
What's it smell like? Noodles. All right, that's all I needed your help for. You can sit down. Anybody give her a hand? All right, so Jesus is going to say the kingdom of heaven is like a grandma who is making bread. And I want to read this one verse to you. It's just one verse. It's a really, really short story that Jesus told. And this is how he says it. You ready? He says this. He told them another parable. This is Jesus. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like yeast, which is this stuff right here that we just put into this little bowl. It's like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. Now, that's a weird word, and we're going to talk about what that means in just a minute. So what he's saying is that God's kingdom, all of this stuff over here, is like this yeast. Now, in the day of the disciples, the day that Jesus was telling this story, they didn't know really what yeast was. It came in these blocks, and they would break stuff off of it, and they would mix it into flour, and you know what it would do? It was like magic. It would take bread that was soft and flabby and make it go poof, and make it puffy. And if they put it into certain drinks, the drinks that grown-ups really like, it would make bubbles. And they didn't know why, but it was like magic. There's these little things. And you know what? What they didn't know about yeast was that each of those little things that you saw in there is an individual bug. Ew. You guys grossed out now? This is a little bowl of bugs. And those little bugs, they're in the air that we breathe. Did you know that right now? Go like this. Just take a deep breath. You just breathed in a bunch of yeast that you can't see. And it's in the water we drink, and it's inside of our tummy. There's some yeasts inside of us that help us digest our food. There are yeasts inside of us that keep us healthy. But there are also yeasts that are really bad. There are yeast that if we get too much yeast, our body gets sick. There are certain types of yeast that if it gets into your bread, it makes your bread taste terrible. Okay, so there's these good yeasts and there's bad yeast. And they didn't really understand all of this. It's this little microscopic bug, and what it does is that sugar that we put in there, the bug eats the sugar. Just like you guys, you're like little yeasts. And you eat the sugar, and then you know what happens when the yeast eats the sugar? This is really gross. You know what it does? It makes gas. So when you eat beans, you make gas. Well, yeast does the same thing. And so these little bugs, look what it's doing. Seeing how it's puffing up? It's puffing up. It's making gas inside here, and you're smelling more and more, and it makes, you can't really see an individual yeast. You want to smell it? I'll hold it for you in just a second, okay? So an individual yeast is really hard to see, but you know what? You can see what it does. You can smell what it does, and when you put this inside bread, you can taste what it does. Even though it's so tiny, you can't see it. And that's what Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like. So you guys want to smell it real quick? I'll let you smell it. So I'm don't want to touch it too much. Come here. You can come up here and smell. It smells really yummy. You smell it? It smells like dirt. You want to try? Anybody else want to smell? Come on up, smell. You'll smell it again? It smells very different. Ew. Well, now that you know what it is, you're like, ew. Gasoline? I don't think so. It smells like bad bread? I think it smells like good bread. So the yeast is in here making its gas, doing its thing. And that's what Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like. It's like yeast that you can't see, but you can see what it does, you can smell what it does, and you can taste what it does. And then it says it's like a grandma. The kingdom of heaven is like a grandma that took 3 measures of flour, which I have here. This happens to be gluten-free flour because this is my lunch. I can't have normal flour, but today I'm going to have a gluten-free pizza. And I know, this isn't for you. I'm sorry. I made you something else. So we're going to put 3 cups of flour and salt and a little bit of other things into this little bag, this bowl here. I wonder what that means. All right. And then we're going to take that, and we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to this because, well, the grandma in our story didn't have olive oil, but to make pizza, I need olive oil. She wasn't making pizza. She was making bread. I'm making pizza. So we're going to take this olive oil, and I'm going to put it in there. And then we're going to take our yeast. So we're going to take our yeast and put it into 3 cups of flour like this. And now I need a bigger set of hands. Can you help me out? Can you just stir that up for me? Because I can't stir and talk at the same time. So you're just going to stir it up. I don't know. It's multitasking. I'm terrible at it. So you might need 2 hands to hold on. Just get stirred up real good. Stir it up real good because pretend like you're a stand mixer. Okay? You want this? Can you make the sound? Can you make the sound louder? This is very good. You're very good at this. Keep it. Now, it's got to come into a ball. This is my lunch. Don't mess it up. I'm going to get all the way to the bottom there. We might need an expert at this because you're just learning. It's all good. Keep going. Keep it all that stuff in there. This part wasn't supposed to take so long. You've never stirred before. You've never stirred before? You know what the good news is now? Your parents don't have to make you dinner anymore. Now you know how to do it. All right. That should be good for now, I think. Hopefully I'll be able to eat this later. So what did we just make? Can anybody tell me what we just made? Pizza. We made dough, right? Pizza dough. And now what I'm doing is it's called kneading it. And we're going to take, and this is what a grandma would do. Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a grandma mixed into 3 cups of flour. Now when he says mix, this is what he means. He took, and I should have wiped this off, but it's my lunch, not yours, so I guess I'll just do this. Grandma did this. I also probably should have come prepared with a towel and stuff to wash my hands off. It's going to be really interesting later, way I'm playing the guitar again. But she did this and made a dough like so. Now look at that. We got a nice dough ball. And what did I say happens when you mix yeast into a dough? What happens? It puffs it up. Yep. So this is going to sit here. And the warm air in there and the yeast is going to make it rise, and it will double or triple in size. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like a woman who made bread and put yeast that's going to eat all that sugar and make the gas and bubble it up and make the dough rise and make the dough delicious. And you can't see it, but you can smell it, you can see what it does, and you can taste it. And what he's saying is he took just a little bit of yeast, thanks, John, took just a little bit of yeast and put it into 3 cups of flour. You know what that means? A little bit goes a long way, right? Just a little bit of yeast can change everything for that dough. If we didn't put the yeast in this, let me tell you what this would be, because it's gluten-free. It's going to be a rock, okay? That's what it's going to turn into. It would be rock that tastes like sticks. Not good. And my teeth would break. But we put this yeast in there, and it makes it fluffy and light and soft. And it makes it delicious, and we want to eat it. It makes it yummy. And that's what Jesus says, that the kingdom of heaven is the yeast that gets mixed into the dough and makes this world better. So who do you think the grandma is in the story? Anybody got an idea? Kids? Well, not what's her name. In this story, who do you think Jesus is talking about as the grandma? Anybody have any ideas? How about adults? Who do you think grandma is? Oh, you're stymied, huh? There you go. It's the Sunday school answer, right? It's God. Jesus is saying that God is like a grandma. It's like a woman. Now, that's kind of hard to get our brain around sometimes. I know God's a man. But in this story, God's genderless, right? And he's being referred to as a woman. And God is taking the yeast of the kingdom of heaven, which is blessing and freedom and justice and life and peace and love and hope and all of these good things that we expect just to get in heaven. And he's taking them and putting them just a little bit into the 3 measures of flour, which is the kingdom of earth. It's our life right now. It's the world that we live in. And he's kneading it and he's mixing it up. You know what? We can't see it. We can't look at it and go, oh, here it is. Here's the kingdom of heaven. But when he mixes it in and he kneads it and he allows it to rise, we can see what it does, we can taste what it does, and we can smell what it does. It brings all of this good stuff and mixes it into all the bad stuff that we experience now. God is bringing the kingdom of heaven to us now, not sometime off in the future when we're going to die. You can experience God's kingdom now because it's like yeast. It's like grandma making bread. And if you take a deep breath, smell right now. Now, do you smell something? Does anybody smell something? What do you smell? How about adults? Do you smell something? It's been going on since you've been here. You smell juice? We don't have any juice. I made a loaf of bread, and it is hot, and it just finished cooking. And it's to remind us every time we eat bread that the kingdom of heaven is like the yeast in that bread. God mixed it in there to bring all of his goodness to us, and we can enjoy it. We can't see it, but we can see what it does, we can taste it, and we can smell it. And we can know that God's goodness is coming to us in the here and now, as hard as that might be to believe. So the bread should be done right now. This is going to sit, and I'll eat it in a couple of hours. I'm going to close this up to let it just sit there all on its own. So that's my message for you guys today. So I know it seems weird, but we want you to know, like, you know what? Sometimes some days are really hard, right? Some days we experience these things, injustice. People are mean to us. Things go sideways. We have bad days. But always remember that He's knocked out the wall here. Jesus is bringing all of these things to you and wipes it away. And he's mixing all of these in to your everyday life. And guess what? If God is the grandma, who do you think the yeast is? You. God is mixing you into this world to bring his kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, into the here and now. You are yeast. So every time you eat bread, don't forget, I'm in here. This is my job. This is my world. This is where God put me. All right? That's my message. It's very short, right? How'd I do? You guys ready to see what my timer says? 20 minutes. It was a little bit long, but I got to tell you, he took a